Finally, welcome back. We're up to date now. So this week we've got a bit of work to do. I've dropped all the components off, such as the doors, the bonnet, the fenders, all that sort of stuff, to the painter. So he's working on them now, getting them all prepped and ready to paint. So this big black box behind me, we should have done this ages ago when we were shaving the bay. I've just dropped some sheets around the two-poster hoist to minimize all the crap going everywhere. So what we're working on is the fenders, so inside the fenders. I've already started one of them yesterday just to see the best way to go about it, because it's a really boring and timely job and it takes a lot of time. We're going about it is we're using a wire wheel on a grinder to grind away all the thick rubber sort of underbody paint that was used on this car. I've done the harder side first and that's the end result. So this took like 2-3 hours to do. So I've got to do this because obviously welding on the engine bay, you've got to clean up the other side. So this obviously looks awesome. I'll show you the other side for a before versus after. So that's before. It's got obviously that underbody thick rubber sort of paint. And as you can see, that stuff needs to be cleaned up as well. So I'll show you the process on that. Probably take about 30 seconds out of your time, but 3 hours of mine. I'll move on to the rear after that and show you the process for that. And that will conclude today. So we'll get started. It's pretty hard to put a GoPro in here without getting it really dirty, or a camera. So I've just done it unrecorded. I'll record the next part a bit later on. But basically I've got a wire wheel on a grinder just like this. And just been grinding away slowly all this sort of underbody paint work. As you can see, it looks a lot nicer already. Still got a fair bit to do, probably about halfway there, but yeah, it's just so we can access where we've welded from the other side, clean it all up, and obviously I want to get it all resprayed under there anyway, because the previous owner, whoever did it, hasn't done a great job. So I want to make sure it's really nice, because we've gone all this way. The only problem is it makes an absolute mess. I'm filthy, so gonna keep chipping away, keep going through batteries on this grinder, but yeah, it should be done in the next sort of hour. Okay, so that's all taken care of now. We just got to polish it, so take the rest of the paint off. I'll show you what it looks like. So, as you can see, no underbody on the whole front guard, plus sort of this outer part, which are the fender covers. So now we're going to go over it with a Scotch Brite disc, a pretty light grip one, so we don't take any metal off. So we'll go over that now, make it all nice and shiny, and then the front's done. So I went over it with a high grit Scotch Brite disc just to get rid of all the leftover paint, glue and residue from that underbody / sound deadener, whatever you want to call it. It took ages, but as you can see, the end result is quite satisfying. Jesus Christ, I'm filthy. Right, so finally, the second one is now complete. So it took ages, so as you can see, it's crazy how nice it turned out. I had to fix some of the welds up there, but it's turned out really nice. So that's the front done. So yeah, the front's done. Next up, we've got to go tub the rears. So that's going to be a bit of a pain, because we've got to do that, plus cut the seam out, then MIG weld it, and then in terms of fab, that's done for the car. So yeah, it's now done. So I've taken the underbody off, and I've also polished it. So the time is now to clean this place up. So I'll put it back on the hoist and just blow it out. But this is what it looks like. Both sides are the same. So she's all ready to cut that seam out. Well, not cut it, just make it a bit more flat. But yeah, that's the rear's done, front's done, so there's no more mess to make. that was a pain. I feel disgusting, and this black stuff won't come off my face, so how good. So it's now the next day, and what we're doing is now cutting the rears out. So I've put the car back up on the hoist, and what we're cutting is that big seam there. I'm gonna cut little notches in that so we can flatten it against the wheel well and re-weld it. So obviously the purpose of that is to allow a higher radius for the wheel, plus no scraping and no cutting of the tyres. So I'm gonna get a grinder, cut little slits in it, and then bash it against the wheel well. So I started cutting slits within the wheel well, probably about an inch and a half apart, just so when we do fold it over, it doesn't stress the metal or pull it from the other side. So really easy job compared to the previous one. That's done. I've sort of just cut, about an inch and a half sort of slits all the way through the seam. As if you were wide bodying a car, you do exactly the same thing. Just gonna bash it outward now with a hammer and get it flat. It was vital we got these slits as flush as possible to the body so it was easier to weld. So now that we've got that done, we're gonna get the MIG out and we're gonna stitch weld the seam, redo that, see how that turns out. I might not grind it off depending on how good my welds are, so we'll get started on that. This was a pretty tedious process. You had to do little bit by little bit, and it was in such an awkward angle. It took a while, and obviously all the smoke on the inside from the glue. So just finished up welding. It didn't turn out the best, as you can see. I think that's 90% user error and 10% the fact I can't clean the other side of the metal. So that's that. I'll get the grinding disc out and the finger linisher and smooth it all over. I just finished the other side. It turned out way better, I think, from the experience on the previous one. That's it. So that's it there. It's all finished. Next part is to make it a bit cleaner. I'll just get the grinder on it again, make it all smooth, and then that's it for the rear. Okay, the other side of the rear is done now. It's looking a lot better than what the first side did, just because obviously I haven't done it before. So nice and smooth. Nothing is going to cut the wheels now. So that's good, that's mission complete. Okay, so that is all for the fabrication work on the car. We're all done. The only thing left to do is take the sound deadening out, so we'll do that next episode. And also rebuild the gearbox as well. So that's going to be all done next week. Car's looking awesome. Cannot wait until we get it painted, which is in about a month or so. So just waiting for the guy that's painting the car to finish off another one that he's got over there, and then we can take it. Once again, thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned for next week's episode. We finally get to do some cool bits and bobs, rebuild the gearbox and make it really nice and clean.